If you're like a lot of the first-time founders that I talk to, you think as you grow towards $1 million, you need a big team with a lot of experience. But I'm here to tell you that it is simply not true. You can grow your business to $1 million or more, but just by fulfilling on three key roles within your company. One is someone who owns the back-end operations or the full operational design. One is someone who actually takes ownership over your key business driver. And the final one is someone who takes over and owns all of the administrative tasks and work on the back end. Anything else, you can outsource strategically. So let me explain this a little bit further. Hey guys, my name is Christy Cox, and I've spent the better part of the last 2 decades helping founders just like you to grow and scale their businesses, including myself. I've built 3 of my own, one of which I sold for multiple millions of dollars in 2023. And that freedom actually allowed my family to leave on a massive RV road trip to tour the United States over the next few years. One thing is consistent across all of those companies that I've helped. We have set the structure and the foundation in a way that allowed them to build without having a ton of overhead and payroll that actually caused them a lot of financial risk in the long run. Everything else we outsourced, and that gave us a lot more flexibility in what it is that we wanted to do for the future. So the difference in any of those companies in their success, no matter what industry they were in, was not headcount. It was just about who owned what and what that looked like. By the end of this video today, I will ensure that you understand the 3 core roles that you need to fulfill under $1 million, what you should actually still own as the founder, how outsourcing can actually help to protect your margins, which is much more important than your sales and revenue dollars, and how to avoid premature hiring in a way that will actually cause you a lot of risk in your business. So the first role that you really need to consider fulfilling upon is the operations owner. Someone who owns that back-end tech stack can make sure that the work is flowing efficiently and effectively so that your team can operate in the way that they need to fulfill upon your key business drivers and the things that are actually producing the sales and revenue. So there are a lot of core operations within your business when you are scaling to $1 million. You've got the sales process, you've got the onboarding process, you've got the ongoing delivery or support process, you've got product delivery if you are in e-com, and you've got the nurture and referral process on the back end. This person should own all of those processes end to end from the operational standpoint. They need to ensure that your tech stack is set up to actually deliver. Look, here's a little example from my last business, the one that I actually sold. We had actually a product-based business and a service and installation business. So our back-end support actually included project management software that had to be set up end to end to ensure that there was delivery of all of these multiple aspects of our business and how we were performing. And it had to be set up in a way that the team and the people that were fulfilling upon it, including our outsourced providers, could fully understand exactly what it is that they were responsible for. You need someone who's going to set up your systems in that same way and take ownership over that. That is going to remove a ton of headaches off of your plate and give you the freedom to help to step into the CEO role and define where there might be gaps in delivery that could be costing you important dollars down the road. Hey guys, look, if any of this resonates with you, then good news. I am hosting a 2-day workshop here in March between March 25th and 26th to show you how to lay the foundation for your business so that you can scale leanly and without having to be the micromanager or involved in every single thing that goes on in your business. So if you want to learn how I scaled my businesses in the past to 5 million or more with less than 5 employees, join me for this workshop. This is not a webinar. This is a hands-on event where we're going to actually get down in the weeds and help you lay the foundation to build the business that you want for the future. The second type of person that you need in your business when you're approaching $1 million is someone who really owns delivery or owns the key drivers within your business. So for service-based businesses, this is going to look like someone who owns the client service and delivery part of the business. For e-com, it's going to look like marketing and demand generation. For agency types of businesses, it's going to look like somebody who owns, again, that entire client experience and client journey from end to end. And in coaching, it's going to look like someone who is the sales and enrollment owner. Your business will determine the type of role that you prioritize and how you define success within that role. But every single business, no matter what type you had, needs to have this person installed as you approach $1 million. They're the ones that are going to be responsible and accountable for the things that are going to generate and keep the revenue coming in on a stable basis. This also starts to remove you from that process. So while you may have certain key touch points and you may own certain meetings and be the face of the enterprise, it removes you from being the owner of the entire end-to-end process, which frees you up to lean into that role of CEO. Now, the next role that I'm going to talk about is probably actually one you hired in the very beginning. If you haven't already and you are above six figures, this is definitely one that I could think you should highly, highly consider. And that is someone who owns all of the administrative tasks and processes within your business. So usually that looks like a virtual or executive assistant. As you grow, you're definitely going to want that role to be filled by someone with the title of executive assistant, even if that is offshore support. This is someone who owns your calendar, who owns your inbox, who owns basic coordination, who keeps you and your business organized in Google Drive or Box or Dropbox or whatever you're using for your backend storage. This is someone who owns SOP development and maintenance and ongoing support. As someone who can own the basic updating of certain spreadsheets that you need to be able to track the progress of what you're doing in your business. Someone who owns key follow-ups in certain email types. This isn't a random person, and this isn't even a junior person, but you can train someone who doesn't have the exact experience that you need to live in this role within your company if you do it intentionally. But this does need to be someone who takes ownership in its entirety of this role. As the CEO, your time is not spent valuably in any of these areas. Now, as you approach that seven-figure mark, there are going to be some key areas that you do take ownership and you do have ownership over within your business. So this is going to definitely be, vision, high-level strategy, creating those strategic plans. It's going to be any sort of major financial decisions, brand positioning, probably some element of product development, no matter whether you're on the service and creative side of the business or you're doing e-com and actual physical products. It's going to be high risk decisions. You're probably going to still have your hands in some client service aspects of the business for major high ticket clients. You're probably going to have your hands in some part of the business in terms of biz dev and sales. So during this transition phase, you're not going to have fully removed yourself from any of these areas. That is totally normal. And it is better to operate in a way that is lean than to put yourself in an unnecessarily risky situation. But as you continue to grow, certain parts of this you can start to hand off to the team that you already have in place, or look to hire a new person, or even outsource to someone outside of your organization. Now, certain parts of the business, as you grow, you can actually outsource to others. I would say anywhere between $1 and $10 million, there are certain key areas of your business you can actually outsource to other individuals, and that is going to save you a ton of money. So this looks like anything legal and compliance related, anything related to accounting and your financial backend. That includes up to FP&A and CFO level support. This includes certain design and marketing elements. It could include ad. It could even include tech builds, such as your website, or if you're developing out a mobile application. If you need a new back-end system developed for some key part of your business. Outsource those. It is going to cost you a fraction of the dollars it would cost you to hire someone internally by the time you consider things such as long-term payroll, the benefits, the taxes, and all of those other elements that go into actually having and taking full ownership of the overhead that you have within your business. When you are under $1 million, when you're under $5 million, payroll poses the biggest threat to your margins and the biggest threat to your viability as a company moving forward. Not to mention, it also poses the biggest threat to your level of stress and burnout as a founder and the CEO and leader of your business. No one wants to have to fire anyone. No one wants to have to lay anyone off because you're not doing as well as you hoped. This protects you from that. So before hiring out for any additional roles, before adding on your fourth, fifth, sixth person as you start to approach that $1 million, the first thing I would ask is, do the people that already work within my business fully understand what it looks like to have full ownership over their area of the business? And are they being utilized to their maximum capacity? This next thing I would ask is, are there areas of the business that we could actually outsource that would save us a ton of costs on our side and de-risk our own personal financial situation? And then the third part is, I would ask and make sure that you have the proper structure and foundation in place so that your team is operating as efficiently as possible, so that you aren't hiring to replace that lack of efficiency on your side. If those systems and tools are not put into place, hiring more people isn't going to fix it. It's just going to add to the chaos and multiply the impact on the time that is costing you to micromanage the team. So before you hire a fourth, fifth, sixth person, the first thing I want you to do is to ask yourself, am I fully utilizing the people that are already on my team? Do they understand what it looks like to take full ownership over their roles in their area of the business? The second thing I want you to ask is the structural foundation of my business set up in a way that has them understand A, what good looks like and what it is that they're doing, and B, has them operating at maximum efficiency? The third thing I want you to ask is, are there parts of the business that I'm considering hiring for that could actually outsource, so that I could de-risk the financial liability on my side as we progress and move forward? But before you get to $1 million, if you're considering hiring a fourth, fifth, or sixth person, I want you to ask yourself a couple of key questions. First, is there anything that I could outsource that I'm considering hiring for that someone else could do much more effectively and efficiently, which would save me a bunch of time and headaches on my side? Second, I want you to ask yourself, do the people that are already working in my business fully understand what ownership over their key areas of the business looks like? Do they understand what success is? And are they operating at maximum capacity? And finally, I want you to ask if you actually have the right structure and foundation in place for your team to perform effectively and efficiently. Look, if you don't have the right foundation or structure in place, bringing more people in is just going to create a lot more chaos on your side. It's going to require a lot more of your time to micromanage them. So in the next video, I'm actually going to talk about the structure that you need to define in order to be able to effectively hire and have your team operate at maximum capacity. Oh, no.